In this movie, we're going to learn how to make a site connection in Contribute on a Mac. If you're using Contribute on Windows, you can skip this movie and go back to the previous movie if you didn't watch that one to learn how to create a connection on the Windows side of things. If you watch the previous movie, the process on the Mac is pretty much the same. Again, if you're using Contribute and you haven't been provided with a site connection key by your site administrator, you'll need to connect to your site yourself using Contribute. And again, this involves collecting the information that we discussed earlier in this chapter that we need in order to connect to our site. But once we have that connection, we can just start right here on the Start page and choose to either connect to a website or to a blog. And again, I'm going to connect to a website, but later on we'll talk about connecting to blogs. That opens up the Create Connection Assistant, and just like the wizard on Windows, it walks you through the process of connecting to your site. And it tells me here that if I've received a Contribute connection key, I can double-click it now to set up my connection manually. So again, you only need to run through this assistant if you haven't received a connection key from your site administrator. But if you haven't, you can go ahead and click Continue. And then Contribute's going to ask me a series of questions. Now, I want to stress that the information you're seeing here is specific just to the tcloud.com site that I'm connecting to. The information that you're going to use to connect to your own site is going to be completely different. So I just want you to pay attention to the process I'm going through in this assistant and don't focus on the actual information that I'm editing. First question is asking me if I want to connect to a website or a blog. So I have the choice here again if I want to change to blog. If you're working on a Mac, you also have the ability to connect to a .Mac website. So if you subscribe to Apple's .Mac service, you can connect to your .Mac website through there. I'll talk about how to do that in the next movie. But for now, I'm going to connect to a regular website. It's going to ask me what the web address or the URL of the website is, and I'll make sure I type that in. And we do need this full address in here, so it has to start with http:// and then the web address. We'll go to the next screen. Now it's asking how we connect to our web server. And these are the 4 different connection methods we discussed previously. Again, FTP is the most common, and that's what I'm using to connect, so I'll go ahead and choose that. And based on my FTP selection, it's now asking me some additional questions here. It's asking me what the name of my FTP server is. The one I've been provided for the tcloud site is ftp.webshorts.com. It's asking me what my username is. Again, this was provided to me by the site administrator, so I'll type that in. And then it's going to ask me for the password that I need to connect. So once I've entered all that information, I can click Continue. Contribute will take a moment to test out that information I entered by connecting to the website to see if it can actually make that connection based on the information I entered. If you've entered that information successfully, it takes you to the user info screen. And you can see here that Contribute remembers my information because I have made a connection using the connection assistant again, and it just assumes I'm the same person. And I am the same person, so I don't need to change any of that. I'll click Continue. And again, it needs your name and your email address just so other Contribute users know who edited pages on this site. And finally, we see a summary page here, so I can review all the information I entered, make sure everything looks good. And if it does, I can go ahead and click Finish. And after Contribute makes a couple more checks of the connection, it takes me to the main index page of the site. You'll notice that we have the Edit Page button available here, so we can start editing this page. And so now I've made a successful connection to my site using the Connection Assistant here in Contribute on the Mac.